Oh, there we go. All right. Live on Facebook, and then
now have legal defense afforded to you by your title insurance company, and we reimburse financially and defend your title.
Yeah. And are there limitations per policy?
There are policy limitations. You actually have to read your policy depending what you get. If you purchase what's called an enhanced title policy, it covers things that are beyond the norm. And that is your best protection. But yet, within your policy, depending what type policy you get, there will be deductibles for different coverages.
Yeah, just like every other insurance you've ever had. Mm-hmm. Deductibles.
Absolutely.
Yep. Oh, hang on. Sorry. I'm not sure why I'm getting that call. All right.
And
sorry, guys.
Title insurance, just to differentiate, is different than homeowners insurance. So homeowners insurance, if there's wind, fire, hurricane, it's going to cover your home, replacement of your home, contents of your home. But what happens if somebody steps up and says, I have title to your property? It was never given to me.
Right.
The garage that you have is encroaching on my boundary.
Right.
You need to remove it. Well, those are title issues that homeowners insurance doesn't cover.
Right.
And there are so many risks out there. We would not have time in a week to discuss them. And that's why you want the title insurance.
Right.
It'll cover things that aren't even on public record.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of hidden hazards.
So sometimes, right, so you're speaking of the garage.
Mm-hmm.
So you and your father built a garage on your property, but you didn't, like, you looked at where your property lines were online, but didn't get anybody to come out and survey it. And you have a foot over into your neighbor's yard. Well, your neighbor's okay with it, but then your neighbor sells the house. Mm-hmm. And then they get, title insurance, and you know what I mean? So that's something that then your title insurance companies can kind of battle out and see what's going to work out and what's going to happen. Maybe you have to move it over, but are you going to pay to have your whole garage picked up and moved over? It's all something that you can kind of, that's why we get title insurance. That's one of the reasons that we would get title insurance. Am I right?
For that scenario? You are correct. Yep.
I'm like saying this scenario. I'm like, I don't, honestly, I think it's right.
So what we try to do in the beginning is find what those known issues are and clear them for you for closing. But there can be defects in recordings. There can be missed items in a search. So after you've purchased the property, have your title insurance. If something crops up later that people did not know about, you have that protection in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so the company that Connie works for here, Regal Abstract, will go and talk a little bit about the company itself. Do you know how long, we just talked about this, how long Regal has been in business?
Rich has been doing this for 43 years.
43 years, and he has a wealth of knowledge. The whole team is just incredible. They have, I think he said, between like 3 or 4 people, there's like over 100 years of experience or something like that. They just have so much knowledge. There's so many people out there. They are local to South Central Pennsylvania, essentially, right? So all of the counties down here, they have knowledge as to what little idiosyncrasies they have about them. We were talking about the differences between York and Lancaster and Lebanon and Dauphin and Chester County, and everybody wants something a little bit different because your deed is recorded in your county. So there are different things that each county kind of wants to look at and wants to look a certain way. And some of them are a little bit more strict than others. Some, like Lancaster, we deal with a lot of Amish clients, and it's just a different world. What does that look like? What does that deed look like? The accepting of, like, misspelled or finagled names or whatever it is it's going to be a little bit different than Dauphin County, where they are not dealing with things like that. So, okay. So title, do you have anything to say about your company?
So
besides just amazing.
Thank you. I think we do a great job. And we definitely like to spoil our realtors. If everything goes smoothly with closing, which it usually does, there's rare that there's ever a hiccup. The next part after your closing is the documents have to get recorded.
Yeah.
And you want a title company that is familiar with the Recorder of Deeds office and knows how to get them properly recorded. If you can't record your deed, you don't have title to your property.
Right.
So
yeah. That causes a whole nother issue. Imagine you just purchased a home, but it's not yours because they couldn't record the deed. What does that mean for you as a buyer and as the real estate agent? Like, what are you going to do? What's your next step there?
So we are very proactive in working with the Recorder of Deeds office to make sure the documents we will be presenting to them for recording will be acceptable. So it's just, there's a lot of things that we do in the background for you to make sure that you have the smoothest transaction possible and everything goes well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does. It just does. Let me ask you about time frames. What is your preferred time frame to get a title from getting it in to like getting the person to close?
The average used to be about 45 days. But we, you know, honestly, if we have 3 weeks to get to closing, that's fine. But we've done it in as little as 3 days. So insane. Right?
Don't say that out loud.
If things can come together,
we're gonna ignore that.
It's not our preference. But if things can come together,
Holy Toledo,
it can be done. Yeah, absolutely. But 3 weeks definitely gives everyone in the transaction enough time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have my little one with me today, and she's like, 3 days.
Even she was impressed.
Even she is impressed. That's wild. Now, okay, so how many closings do you guys participate in any given like month, let's say?
Yeah, it all depends on the market. Right now, we might be doing somewhere around, I'm going to take a guess, 40 to 50 closings a month.
Okay.
But when we're, really busy, we're probably doing at least 3 times that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Margaret, back up for just a second, please, honey bunny. That's a lot. I mean,
Absolutely.
So 45 closings a month right now during the market that we're having right now with inventory being stable but still being less than.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's under constant fluctuation right now. So it's always changing, but yeah,
always isn't real estate
always
changing, and you're always doing something a little bit different, right?
Yes, you are.
And there's always something different about every home, right? Even homes, new builds, you're doing something different, right? That new build is not a normal new build.
That's
right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is, and every transaction is different. Nothing is cookie cutter, and that's why we like to keep these realtors on their toes.
Getting that email is like, oh no, what's going on?
Yeah.
What do we need to fix? Who do we need to talk to? How do we go about doing things? And you guys also have a network of people as well that you guys work with, right? So you guys have some attorneys that you work with locally, realtors that you work with locally that will be able to get you that kind of answer.
When you are a buyer and you're working with the Dahlia Group and you have us for settlement, we've been in the business long enough to network with people that know what they're doing to give you the best possible experience to get through closing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about here is networking and connecting with the right people. And we have a network of attorneys and really great underwriters that even if a problem arises with a transaction, we're able to work through it and get you to closing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It doesn't stop things, and there's so much that goes on in the background that
with everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we work it out to make sure everything is good by the time you get to the table.
It's just one more reason to have a really great team on your side. Whether it's, the title company or the things I just had settlement, right? And so some of the documents that you're signing, you wouldn't even think that they would be a document to sign, but it's like, hey, one time this one person said so on and so on and so on, so you have to sign this document. So someone came up and was like, you can't rerun my credit, or you can't ask, my lender can't ask for another proof of blah, blah, blah. And that you sign a paper saying that if they ask you for, you will provide it, just because one time someone said they didn't have to legally. And so, but you guys get all those documents together.
We get those documents from your lender. So everything that the lender needs you to sign, we have them.
Yeah.
We go over them with you at settlement, as well as our documents.
And are super knowledgeable about what every document says, what it means, what it's for, what's included in it. You guys have the deed. They record the deed after, like we said, like Connie said earlier. It's just a whole process, and then you guys take the whole packet and deal with it.
Yep, you get the copies to look at, but we know it's a busy time in your life, and we make it as simple as possible for you, and
truly.
make sure everything is done right.
Yeah. Rachel said something about toot your own horn, Morgan May. Toot your own horn a bit. What is the average number of hours it takes Regal Abstract versus a national average?
So
good one,
if
Rachel.
anyone would like to take a guess at the number of average hours, national average hours it takes for a title company to process a real estate purchase transaction for closing, would you guess it's 40? Would you guess it's 60? Would you guess it's 80?
I think I said 80 before, and I think it's like 82.
It is. It's
average
hours is 80 hours.
That's nuts.
On one purchase transaction.
And think about that, right? They're doing 45 now.
Mm-hmm.
Regal does it in how many hours?
We typically do it in a lot less.
I think you guys said 40.
Yeah, about 40.
Something like that.
45.
Now, still, nonetheless, 40 transactions a month, and you're spending 45 hours-ish on one transaction each time. And they're not like 300 of you here.
No.
Like 300 people here. Like you guys are, you know what I mean? And you take care of us. Right? So you're doing all of our transactions.
Right. So we have about 8 title processors that do what I do. We have about 5 closers that will actually meet with you at the closing table and go over the documents. We do not combine those 2 duties because the processors need to be available if something comes up while you're in closing so that we can take care of it for you, and the closer needs to be in the closing room with you, taking care of everything.
Yeah. And the closers are great. I mean, I think I've dealt with a couple of them and you guys, and they're fantastic. I mean, I have nothing to say, but like
they're really awesome.
Someone came out. Who was it that came out to York once for me?
Bart probably did.
Traveled all the way out.
We travel everywhere.
Yeah.
We Dauphin, Lancaster, Lebanon, Cumberland, York.
Whenever COVID was happening, I was doing drive-by closings, which were super fun to participate in.
Those were actually really fun.